What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we conclude the AFC South portion of our 2021 NFL season preview. I'm starting to fly through these now. I've enjoyed doing them. They're pretty quick, easy to enjoy, and it seems like everybody has had a fun time watching them. And today we're talking about the Tennessee Titans, one of the best teams in the AFC in my opinion, but we'll talk about that here in one moment. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing and give me all your Titans takes down below. Let me hear it in the comment section. I respond to every comment. I'd love to hear your win range, their realistic goal, X factors, games to watch, everything that you have on your mind about the Titans. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. I have adjusted the win range and win total because when I did my way too early 2021 season prediction and preview and whatnot, Julio Jones was still a member of the Atlanta Falcons, so I have given the Titans a couple of extra wins. Julio is still a top 5 receiver in the NFL in my opinion, so he is certainly worthy of a 2-win upgrade over someone like Josh Reynolds or whoever else they might have rolled out with there on the outside. But 10 to 13 wins, 10 wins for this team would actually be pretty disappointing, and that would signal to me that despite the offensive firepower, that defense, all the money and all the resources they put into it just weren't enough, and probably more so on the outside. And we'll talk about the cornerback position a little bit later on, but after acquiring Julio Jones, I think 12-5 is about where I'd see Tennessee go. I could see them getting 13-4 and becoming like the number 2 seed in the AFC right behind Kansas City, but right now I think I'd still favor a team like Buffalo or Cleveland. I think they just have more complete rosters, maybe a few less question marks on the defense. I've seen, especially the Browns, I've seen them have moments and flashes, and then you add someone like number 2 corner in Greg Newsome and Jadeveon Clowney. Those are tertiary pieces compared to you're relying on your first-round pick to be a star-studded cornerback and Caleb Farley. Spent big money on Bud Dupree. Can he translate his game from Pittsburgh to Tennessee? That's where I have a few more asterisks I feel like I'm leaning on for Tennessee. But that aside, I still think this is one of the best teams in football. There you go. I have them winning 12 games. Realistic goal, win the division. I think they're by far the best team in the worst division in football. I get why people like the Colts, but I think, again, you're leaning on an asterisk with Carson Wentz and him regaining form and getting back to where he was. 2017 is probably too high of a goal to try to reach, but even 2018, I don't know if that Carson Wentz is enough to overcome the offensive slugfest that the Titans have, and I think the defense is going to be improved. So I think it's the Titans division to have, and then a reach goal, win the Super Bowl. I mean, a lot of things would have to go right, but we've seen it happen, right? The Eagles winning a Super Bowl in 2017, things broke their way, and similar happenings could happen for Tennessee. Additionally, maybe Bud Dupree is a fantastic signing, and he's worth every dollar they gave. I mean, he was the guy who saw as many double teams in Pittsburgh as TJ Watt, and that's saying something. Apparently, teams in the NFL see a lot in Bud Dupree, and that speaks. And additionally, maybe Harold Landry drops back into coverage less, and they use him more as a pure pass rusher. I think that bode well for him. And then maybe Caleb Farley doesn't get hurt, and he is a number 1. Janoris Jenkins comes in as a nice signing. There are pieces, and there's a pathway in my mind where Tennessee could win the Super Bowl. It's not a broad pathway. It's not very likely, but I could still see it happening. Ergo, it's the reach goal for this team. And now let's talk about some X factors, and this is kind of a fun part of the video. Anthony Firkser, obviously, big role, big shoes to fill for Jonnu Smith, who's one of the best tight ends in football, yards after the catch. He was also very effective in the red zone. Obviously, adding Julio Jones minimizes the role that Firkser would have had as a guy who was replacing Smith, and the team was looking for a Corey Davis replacement. Not only did they replace Corey Davis, but they got an upgrade in Julio Jones, who, like I said, top 5 receiver when he's healthy, and obviously health is a big factor to consider with all these teams, but it's nothing that they can necessarily control other than what you can do for yourself, and you have to assume Julio Jones is going to do what he can to be out there. So big upgrade there, kind of minimizes what you would expect from Anthony Firkser. Not as big of a role and production needed from him, but if he can still at least be a good red zone threat, that helps take over for that spot where he's replacing Jonnu Smith, and Smith had a lot of touchdown production. So I'm looking to see if Firkser can do that. And I do think he has the ability to be a good outlet option, get a ball in the flats, and let him scamper forward for a first down or something potentially like that. But even last year when Jonnu Smith missed games, Firkser didn't have a whole lot of snaps. It was really like a 50-50 share. So That kind of made me worry a little bit after they lost Smith about how big of a role Firkser is going to have, but I'm starting to hear really positive things. And again, you add Julio Jones, that minimizes what you're needing from Firkser, so that helps kind of alleviate the pressure on his shoulders. Then we get to Harold Landry, and again, kind of made mention of this a little bit ago, but he dropped into coverage a lot more than I would have expected. Granted, Tennessee runs a 3-4, it's like what Pittsburgh runs. Why I think part of why Bud Dupree is a really good fit for this team. But you'll see TJ Watt drop into coverage, but Watt also has a little bit more capability to do that than I think Harold Landry does. And I don't know, a guy who had 9 sacks 2 seasons ago, felt like he was on the verge of becoming something really special. Then he goes back down to 5.5 this past season. I want to see him get back to that double-digit sack territory, and some of it will definitely help having Dupree on the opposite side, right? Having another guy defenses have to key in on will create opportunities where he's not getting doubled as much, and he's getting one-on-one opportunities, which, in theory, boosts his chances to get sacked. So that plays well for Landry, but I also would like to see him be more of a pure pass rusher for this team. Sure, drop back into coverage when you have to, or when you feel it's necessary, but especially in passing situations, get this guy going towards the quarterback. And he's still a young, talented player, and I really liked him coming out of Boston College. I think he is a guy who could become a top 10, 12-ish pass rusher in the NFL off the edge. So I think he has the talent. It just comes down to taking advantage of the opportunities in front of him, and adding Dupree helps. Hopefully he gets more opportunities to rush the passer. Did play a lot of snaps last year, which helps, but hopefully it all comes together for Harold Landry, at least if you're a Titans fan. And last but not least, Caleb Farley, the man on your screen. Look, there are not a whole lot of corners that make an immediate impact year one. Your L'Jarius Sneeds, your Cameron Dantzlers, those are really the exception to the rule. But if there was anybody in this class that I feel like would make an immediate impact, it'd be Caleb Farley, just because he's an athletic freak. And he's also somebody who's still learning the position, right? Went to Virginia Tech as a quarterback, then wide receiver, then turned corner, which is ridiculous because he's as clean as it gets. He's fantastic at mirroring the wide receiver, goes up, gets the football. Unreal athlete, great size, has everything you want in a corner. So him and Surtain would be the two guys I would look at and say they can make the biggest impact right away. And if Farley can be that day one, number one corner, then you have Janoris Jenkins as your 2, which even then, I'd make the argument that you should do what the Chiefs did last year, where Rashad Breeland is getting the number 1 assignment, despite maybe not being better than L'Jarius Sneed, but it helps protect Sneed and, saves him from criticism, but also gives him a more favorable matchup, and you can feel more comfortable at him having a successful rookie year. And maybe that is what they do. So maybe it is Janoris Jenkins, that CB1, and Caleb Farley as the 2, and then you mix in Christian Fulton, you have Elijah Molden potentially playing in the slot, also playing some safety, but you have Amani Hooker, you have Kevin Byard, so a lot of depth there, but this team needs a number 1 shutdown guy who can take away one wide receiver or one half the field, whatever Tennessee is asking, whether it's zone or man, and Farley is by far the guy on this team who is most likely, based off his skill set and his height, his frame, and his talent level overall, to be able to do that. And if you do that, that helps out Harold Landry, helps out Bud Dupree, Danico Autry, another signing in free agency that I like. Have the quarterback hold the ball for half a second longer, just half a second. And that could be the difference between Bud Dupree getting in there, making some pressure, and disrupting what the QB is seeing, or Harold Landry getting a sack, or Danico Autry forcing the quarterback to get away from the pocket and scramble out. And then, again, it helps out one of those edge guys. A lot of different possibilities you could run through in your head there, but elite level secondary play will help the pass rush, and Caleb Farley, again, by far the most talented guy on this roster. If he can avoid any more back injuries and stay on the field all 17 games, this is a guy who could be a CB1, and that would be huge for this Tennessee team. Last but not least, let's talk about some games to watch. Week 5 against Buffalo, you're at home. It was a fun Tuesday night game last year, which is, nothing that I would ever expect to have ever said in my lifetime. But opportunity for Buffalo to get some revenge, chance for you to prove you are the more superior team. Again, being at home helps, but this is a battle between maybe the second and third best team in the AFC, minimum 2 of the top 4 teams inside the AFC. So obviously a fun matchup to watch there. Then in Week 9, they head out to Los Angeles to take on the Rams, and I think these two teams are in kind of similar situations where they're not the front runners in their conference, but they're not far off. They're in that 4 to 5 team bubble inside the NFC for the Rams, the AFC for the Titans, that have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. So that's obviously a really fun matchup to see two teams who you could potentially see on that level, potential Super Bowl match. I'm not saying it's likely or what will happen, but there are two teams who wouldn't surprise you at the end of the day if they made it to the Super Bowl, and they go head-to-head Week 9. And road contests, see how Tennessee travels. They say road travels, the offense can be a little behind. Tennessee hoping that's not the case, because they're going to need that offense to put up some points against a very good offense in the Rams. Then Week 16, again, San Francisco's kind of in that NFC bubble where I wouldn't really be surprised to see them in the Super Bowl, or back in the Super Bowl, I really should say. And if everything works out properly, that's probably one of the best teams in the NFC if they can stay healthy. If Trey Lance hits the ground running after they tweak his mechanics, or even if it's not him, if Jimmy Garoppolo's playing, polished football, avoiding turnovers, all those sorts of things, and they're avoiding injuries, of course. That's one of the better teams in the NFC. In Tennessee, similar situations. They're going to need pass rush. They're going to need guys to stay healthy. And they're going to need some of the young guys to make an immediate impact. So, obviously a really fun matchup. And also, I love putting late season games on these games to watch, because it allows you to have a barometer of, did this team get better from Week 1 to 17? Which sounds insane, because you would think, in theory, everybody gets better. And, for the most part, sure. But there's also teams who lose momentum as the year goes on. There's teams that look hot at the beginning of the year, and then it all just kind of peters out thereafter. Which one is that the case for Tennessee, or is it where, hey, Week 1 they were playing solid football, and then it got better and better each and every week, or they got off to a slow start, and then by the end of the year they were playing some really good football? And this is a game where you'll see it. Whether they're playing really good football, you'll see it in a tough matchup at home, but still against one of the best teams in the NFC. Or if they get out to a hot start, let's say, and then things kind of peter out from there on, and they lose some steam. This is a game that will highlight and showcase that, and put the Titans on the spotlight. So really interested by that matchup. It helps being at home, but again, another matchup between one of the best teams in the AFC, one of the best teams in the NFC. So obviously, I'm keeping my eyes on that. But that's it for my 2021 Tennessee Titans season preview. Comment your thoughts down below. What do you expect from the Titans? Who are some X factors, games to watch, win range? Love to hear it all. I respond to every comment. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more sports content like this, please consider subscribing. That's going to do it for this one. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.